Well, anyways, I'm just sitting here after I did a little bit of a workout at the gym. I'm still tired. I'm still trying to get build up my conditioning. Uh, I just thought I'd say hi. Maybe take a little quick walk around one of my favorite little areas here in St. Mary's, Pennsylvania. All right, I'm gonna turn the camera around. There we are. This is kind of a cute little spot. I think a lot of people come here. Well, I don't know, not a lot of people, but there's definitely more foot traffic here on this side of town than on the other side of town where I'm camped. There's my bags, my day pack. I obviously don't carry everything. I do have a stealth camp. I have a tent that's set up, but it's like 2 miles away from here. And I went to the gym today just trying to get my conditioning, you know, get back into conditioning. I was at my apartment for quite a while before I left the apartment to go back out on the road. And sitting in an apartment, your conditioning suffers a little bit, especially as you're getting older, which I'm getting up there in years. I'm in my mid 50s and I'm soon to be approaching my late 50s. Here's a little spot that I like to come and hang out at. Hi, whoever you are. It's not a very good video today. I'm just really tired and I just thought I'd say hi and, put this up on my video journal. This is an area that I kind of sometimes come and hang out at. I feel like drinking a beer, like a couple of King cans, but, I just can't really do it now because I'm trying to get back in shape. And I've been here, Tuesday is going to be my third week back in the gym. And before that, I was 4 weeks out on the road, which that's, exercise and conditioning. Here's a little spot where people come to hang out. Kind of a cool spot. I could just sit here. Pretty good area, I could imagine growing up in here in this area and really liking it, if I was younger and growing up back in the day and age in time, when I grew up. Grew up in the late 70s through the early and even mid to late 80s, really. I was born in 69 and I grew up in the metropolitan Detroit area. We had a couple of areas that were a little bit like this, but they were always between, city blocks of neighborhoods and stuff like that. It didn't have very much woods. It was only a little bit of woods. But this is kind of a cool spot. You can see that they have a fire here, and I don't know. I don't think the police are. There's no signs that say no trespassing. I could stealth camp around here, but there's too much foot traffic, and kids come here with their BMX bikes, and people come and kind of hang out and drink and party a little bit. Not too often, but I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving a tent up here in the area where I'm at. So far, so good. I was at my friend's house visiting for 4 nights. I went back, checked my camp, and everything's safe and sound, thank goodness. I wouldn't trust it around here, like in this side of town. But I'll take a tiny little walk for a few minutes, and let me see who's saying hi. Hey, Matthew. I'm just hanging out in St. Mary's. I'm on the other side of town where I normally camp at. I'm on the other side of it. I just went to the gym for about an hour or so, and it was really hard because I haven't gotten my conditioning back. I'm still tired. it takes around 10 to 12 weeks to get the conditioning to really live on the road and not be, you know, tired and stuff, especially as you're getting older. So it'll be 7 weeks since I left my apartment this, I think, Monday. And Tuesday will be 3 weeks from the time that I started going back to the gym. So yeah, I got a few more weeks to go before I'm ready to put on the backpack and journey, you know, to points beyond St. Mary's. I'd like to do a little bit of traveling around the area, not too far, but you know, maybe about 40-50 miles from here. Just walk the roads, and if somebody stops and offers me a ride, if they don't seem crazy, I'll take the ride. Yeah, this is sort of like behind the, let me see, big love from Virginia, always praying for you, thank you, my friend. Yep, sorry it's a boring video, it's just for, I guess, video diary. And just to let people know I'm still around. I would love to kick back and drink a couple of beers now. That's what I feel like doing, but no, ain't gonna do it because I have to wait till next month sometime to do that. I don't drink very often when I'm stealth camping, you know, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Because once you have a little beer on your breath, if somebody finds you, then there goes the sympathy. It's a responsibility that I have to accept. Well, this is what it looks like behind the factories. These are real small factories. They're nothing too big. I'm not sure what they make at them. And then here is it's a pretty big piece of property, and it's owned by some pallet company. It says no trespassing, you know. You could easily walk on it, but you know, without anybody knowing you were there. I think it's there for insurance policies, and mainly for no trespassing for hunters and four-wheelers and stuff. I think it's mostly for insurance. Somebody gets hurt, then, you know, at least they could say, hey, we said no trespassing. Or if they wanted to lean on somebody and use the law, they could do it. But they own a pretty good piece of property. And here's a little spot that I used to go to and once in a while hang out and kick back and drink a beer at night. I remember one time in January, it was I think it was in 2019. Yeah, January 2019, I came here and it was like 48 degrees. It like warmed up. It was like one of those really nice January thaws. And the sky, it was beautiful with stars and everything. And I came here and I drank a couple of king cans of beer and just looked up at the stars, and I did a lot of praying, you know, in my heart. whatever I was saying, I can't exactly remember, but I remember I was definitely deep in prayerful thought. And that was kind of a fun night. I remember that once in a while. They have lots of raspberries around here. This is the second growth. Some of them are actually, there's some pretty good clusters, but most of them are starting to fade and die. The raspberries only last about 2 weeks. And then soon there will be an apple season, which that always comes in very handy. Very, very handy. You can live on apples for a while. You can't live on them forever. There was a lady years ago, I think in 2008, and they had to let her go from a mental hospital. Her name was Linda Bishop, and there's a documentary about her. She found some abandoned house to live in, homeless, and she was like a little bit crazy, and she was afraid of, you know, had all sorts of conspiracy theories in her head, but she was really a very intelligent person, and she just hid out in this abandoned house and wrote a bunch of notes. And she was collecting apples and lived on apples. And she got there in October, and by towards the end of January. It was the last entry in the journal that she was writing. And the documentary is called God Knows Where I Am. And I really recommend it. It's not for free on YouTube. It was a couple of times, thank goodness. But if you can find a way to watch that, just type it into the search engine. What a cool, interesting, I don't know, documentary it was. And though she died, I think she had a very interesting and profoundly spiritual death. It was just really interesting. Yep. I recommend that documentary. It's a true story. It's a real documentary. And gosh, Lori Sigler, Lori Singer, that's it. I think her name is Singer. The one that played in Footloose, the main woman. She's not playing a role or an acting role, but she's reading the actual notes from the diary or the journal that this lady Linda Bishop left behind. And she's kind of, that's the narrative. You hear it through the narrative of Lori Singer, who was the woman on, the young lady on Footloose. They did a really good job. It happened in New Hampshire, and it was a really hard winter. I think it was the winter of '08. So every now and then I'm like, wow, I think about her. Yeah, and here is just a bunch of open fields, and they used to let everybody run their four-wheelers, and people still do. And as you can see, it says Penn Pallet Realty. It goes a couple of miles of woods. I used to camp out in some of these woods over here. I never felt very comfortable on this side of town though, because there's always some foot traffic, over here that I just don't trust. Where I'm at, there's always a chance, but I've never really seen foot traffic, people coming up with beers or whatever, hanging out and partying, there's no little fire pits or nothing. You don't see that stuff where I'm at. It's more kind of in the wild, even though it's really not too far from, homes and stuff like that. There's just no real connection to any paths or foot traffic or anything. Yeah, it's one of my hangouts. St. Mary is the opposite side that I hang out in. Well, I hang out here, but this is the opposite side that I don't really stealth camp here. I did stealth camp here once years ago. I'm trying to think, when was that? It was the fall of 2020. I came here and I stayed for about 3 weeks, I think, over here. A lot of, room to breathe. A lot of open spaces and room to breathe. And there's not, even though this area, as I said, has some foot traffic, I wouldn't trust it with stealth camping and leaving a camp up, but it's not like heavy foot traffic. I still got my bags down the other, down the track. And now if I go over that way, there's more factories, a little bit bigger. And every now and then I've seen people camp up here, like somebody who's, I don't know, in between apartments or something. There's no like real homeless up here, but occasionally somebody's in between apartments, or some guy gets breaks up with his girlfriend, or she throws him out. goes to jail for a little while, comes back out, and he doesn't have a place to go. So those kind of people you'll see every now and then. But you're not going to see anybody who's really homeless, and no tent cities, nothing like that. Which I'm just surprised, because it's a pretty good area. It's almost like God has protected this area for me and held it in, kind of suspended all of that riffraff from coming here, and kind of through divine intervention led me to this area that I fit into pretty good. I don't get a bunch of warm invites from people. I don't have anyone to really hang out with, but I don't have any problems with people, so that's pretty good. This here is a area, it's behind a concrete factory, and this is where I had one of my stealth camps for I think 3 weeks or 2 weeks in 2020. But as you can see, this pile of concrete keeps building and coming this way, and it ended up spilling out. The fence got knocked down, and all of this is flooded with probably 2 or 3 feet of concrete beneath my feet, and now it's all hardened because this thing, my tarp was about that high, and I could fit the tarp under the tent underneath the tarp. So it's been a lot of see, there was a fence, and yeah, well, lucky I wasn't here when that happened, huh? There's a couple of houses over here, and there's some people that ride some four-wheelers around. And technically, I think it's that Penn Pallet Company, which they say no trespassing. I don't think this particular part of the woods that I'm in is that company that owns that big swath of land, but it's real close to that. Well, I'm in the process myself of getting my conditioning back. And as I get older, it's a little harder. I tried to lift some heavier stuff today, and I managed to do it a little, but I can tell, wow, I'm not ready for the road yet. I did good those 4 weeks that I spent down in DuBois, but then when I got up here, I had to recover, and I haven't fully recovered, and I've been trying to integrate the conditioning training at the gym while I'm still in recovery from the 4 weeks that I spent out on the, living out of the backpack in DuBois area and down in the, the Amish videos that I made, down in Amish country. That actually took a little bit out of me. I did really good, but after 4 weeks, I was like, whoo, okay, I'm tired. And then when I got up here, I had to rest I got one good workout in. The first Tuesday I was up here, and then I had to rest for about 4 or 5, maybe 6, 7 days. And then I got another okay workout in, and now I just am still mushy from the last 3 or 4 workouts. And I don't think I'm 100% healed from that month that I spent on the road, down in DuBois. So this sure has been a blessing, having my friend up here and being able to take a break and spend the night, over somewhere for a few nights. And, she was gone, and I house sat for a little while. So that was kind of nice. And I was able to eat pretty good, a little bit more than I needed to, probably. So I'm able to merge in very slow and easy into, becoming reconditioned, reconditioning my body for this kind of lifestyle, which I think is going to take about another 5 weeks or 4 weeks to really get over the fatigue, the general tiredness of it. I almost felt like I was watching ASMR videos this morning when I went to the gym. I was like, gosh, am I ever going to get anything started here? I'm so tired. It was not fun. Gradually, I started with light and real light, like 5 pound dumbbells, and worked up to where I did a couple of good sets. Finally, it took like 45 minutes to really warm up to it. Well, anyways, that's this part of the town of St. Mary's. This is kind of a good old section. It's got a lot of deep family roots in this area. I mean, just on the other side of all these factories, you know. They got old stores with, they're like mom and pop type places that's owned by the same family for a long time. You know, they got like delis and they make their own stuff and kind of cool places. It's got a feel like, it still feels like it did in the 80s and 90s anyways, with some obvious changes coming in, you know. But the changes are slower here than they are at other places. Other places, the changes are so much faster pace. I wouldn't want to be in Ohio or something, you know, even a smaller town. It's just, they don't have the open spaces and freedom to roam and move. And, you know, the cops are on you about everything. And there's too many homeless and too many druggies. They got the druggies here a little bit, but real small in number compared to other places, you know, from what I've seen, from what I see on YouTube videos and from what I've experienced in real life traveling around the country. This is a pretty good place in comparison. That's why I kind of feel it was divine intervention how I got here. And when I go back, whenever I start having doubts, which we all kind of do, we gotta, you know, we all have challenges to our faith, and we have doubts, and we go through what is referred to by both, you know, Catholics, you know, which was originally a term by St. John of the Cross, a Catholic, and but it's been adopted by like the New Age community, but it's got a lot of truth into it. It's called the dark night of the soul, you know. I mean, we go and we have a mountaintop or a sort of an experience where we feel like we're resting on the spiritual summits, and we have a lot of those. We feel like we can feast on the dainties of what we have accumulated, and you know, from the success of our spiritual journey. But it only lasts for a season, and then we're prodded on and we move off of the spiritual summit, and we kind of descend into a valley, and oftentimes we don't really realize we're there until we start bumping up against behaviors that should have been long ago laid to rest, and we start to face doubts and troubles and challenges to our faith, you know. And yeah, those are the dark nights, you know, and you go through a number of them, and you become more adept and become more of a spiritual master over time, you know, if you're intentionally on a spiritual path or journey. I've gone through enough of them, but when I go through those challenges and tough times and tests of my faith, I think back in hindsight, and wow, it's hard for me to just write how things worked out in my life in certain areas, write it off as just coincidence. I see, you know, divine intervention. Now, when it comes to religion, we're talking about it, definitely people have a persuasion, or they have, I guess, they resonate with one path or another, and nobody can really prove it. That's something that people really can't prove. But you can't, I think I can prove, at least to myself, to some satisfaction, that something is for sure, something that is there, you know, and there's been divine intervention in my life. I'm glad for that. Why? I mean, it's probably it's just very personal. You know what I mean? It's anecdotal. Nobody's gonna really care. But when I feel the doubts coming, and I feel that dark night of the soul, yeah, I can't help but to think back how I kind of came, I guess, all the roads that I've taken to get here, and I can't write it off as just coincidence. Can't prove my religion. I can't prove my own personal leap of religious faith, but that I can't prove. But I think I could prove to myself that for sure something is guiding me, and I must be on the right path, or else I don't think I'd be really guided for too long before. I don't know. I probably wouldn't be as healthy at this age. I wouldn't be as sustained. My means of support sustained. And, well, anyways, I'm rambling. Well, anyways, I guess I'm going to just say, gosh, 25 minutes. And to viewers, I guess bless you all. Anybody who's still listening and watching, it's a little boring. It's just a day in the life, of me. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I guess I'm going to shut the video down because I don't want it to go on too long, and gotta save battery and all that stuff. And anyways, thank you all for listening if you're there, and may you be blessed, however you want to take that. And thank you for watching. Noah Road, over and out for now.